Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Microstructure Exchange. I'm Cameron Pfeiffer, and I'm a PhD student at the University of Oregon, but I guess I'm here at like Stanford for now. So that's why everything seems fancier behind me. We are delighted today to have Fatemeh Aramian. She's going to be here from the Stockholm Business School. Is that the one? Damn, I got it right because there's so many schools named after Stockholm, I feel like. So I'm happy to have her here, and it'll be an awesome talk because it's a cool paper. And Lars is here, who is the co-author, so he'll be kind of combing around in the chat if there's questions. For this talk, we're going to be doing two pauses. So Fatemeh will have two pauses that are kind of designated slots. So kind of get your questions in the chat, or in the chat, and then I'll kind of moderate them, bring them up to her, or ask you to ask them yourself during those two pause breaks. And Fatemeh will stay after for as long as we have questions. Okay, so Fatemeh, the floor is yours. You can take it away and do something cool.
Can you see that?
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you, Cameron. Also, thanks to the organizers for considering the paper to be presented here. Today, I'm going to talk about high-frequency traders that operate as a single dealer platforms in equity markets. This is a joint work with Lars, who is also in the audience, and so from Stockholm Business School. We know that high-frequency traders are active in multiple trading venues, which can be classified as activities in venues with multilateral trading settings, and also trading activities in bilateral settings of exchange. Changes in the equity trading landscape has increased the HFT's engagement in off-exchange trading. For example, the regulatory reform of MiFID II in 2018 in Europe led to the emergence of HFT single dealer platforms in the form of systematic internalizers, or SIs, in 2018, which provide the possibility to learn more about HFTs in this setting, because with this operation in place, HFTs act as the dealers and conduct bilateral trading on off exchange. The implementation of MiFID II resulted in a sharp increase in the number of trading firms that decided to operate as dealer platforms, in a way that their numbers increased in equity trading, increased from 13 in 2017 to 73 in 2019, and subsequently their market share also increased from 2% to almost 20%, according to ESMA. The increased trading volume of these platforms and also increase in their numbers have made the European equity markets even more fragmented than before, according to regulators, and raised concerns on the possible adverse effect that they might have on the market quality, because this was not in line with the initial objective of regulation, which intended to reduce the fragmentation, and raised concern that this might have adverse effects on the market quality, especially given the important role of HFTs in the market. Putting these 2 points together, basically the raise of concern and the emergence of dealer platforms, and also that we know less about HFT's activities in the bilateral trading settings. In this paper, we aim to investigate the effect of trading on HFT dealer platforms on market quality, and also the impact they have on the HFT's liquidity supply on public venues, and the association to HFT's inventories. To summarize the main finding and the results here, we find that the trading activity on HFT dealer platforms is detrimental to liquidity on exchanges. in a way that basically the depth decreases, quoted spread increases, while the effective spread, the transaction cost remains virtually unchanged. Basically, the changes in the trading costs are not economically very significant. What we ask here is that what is the possible channel for the observed market quality effect here? And this is when we examine the relation between the dealer volume on HFT dealer platforms and the liquidity supply on public venues. Using HFT's passive trading as a proxy for the liquidity provision, we find that an increase in the trading volume of HFT dealer platforms is associated with the reduction in the liquidity supply on public exchanges. We argue that the two reasons for this reduction in the liquidity supply by HFTs. One can be related to the inventory management. Basically, HFTs can manage the inventory imbalances as a result of their dealer trades by trading aggressively and floating their position on the exchange and by taking liquidity and reducing the liquidity supply at the same time. The other possible reason also is that the HFT's willingness to supply liquidity on their own dealer platform because of the possibility that they have to trade with selected counterparty, it helps them to have a better control over adverse selection costs. When it comes to the association between trading activity of HFT dealers and inventory, we find that an increase in the trading volume of HFT dealers result in the improvement in their inventories, basically using two measures of inventory, end of day inventory, and also the instance that inventory crosses zero. We find that they experience lower end of day inventory and lower decrease in the number of times that they change inventory positions. This is basically the summary of what we mainly do in the paper and also for the talk today. In the paper, as a main contribution, we contribute to the literature that examines the HFT's activities in off-exchange trading. Just to give some of the examples, for example, in the work by Fatemeh and others, they examine the interactions between in the US equity market, interactions between electronic liquidity providers, which are market-making HFTs, and the large institutional orders of exchange with respect to from the perspective of trading costs. And also, as you are familiar with the paper by Ethan and others, they examine the impact of use of payment for order flow by HFTs as they buy the retail order flow and how it affects market quality. Dealer platforms in Europe are somewhat different from the way that ELPs in the US work because they are subject to more regulation when it comes to pre-trade transparency and the tick size obligation, and also when it comes to the use of payment for order flow. As you know, while large market-making HFTs widely use payment for order flow to basically purchase retail orders, the use of payment for the order flow in general in the context of best execution under MiFID II is considered to be banned. However, as I will explain more in a couple of slides, even not in the form of payment for order flow, dealers have this possibility to segment the markets and basically capture more uninformed order flow. For the empirical framework, let's have a very quick look on the equity trading landscape. I apologize, my apology first if the decoration of tree is not very perfect. But as you are familiar, we have different trading systems in European trading landscape. We have lead market, you're all familiar, that is operated by regulated markets and MTFs, and dark venues, including dark pools and large in scale trading platforms. We have periodic auctions and traditional auctions, and also dealer platforms, which are run by two different types of trading firms. Dealer platforms run by HFTs, and those are run by non-HFT trading firms. And here in the focus of the paper is basically on the left-hand side. We focus on the dealer platforms in Europe. When it comes to the institutional details, as I mentioned, they have some flexibilities and some regulatory obligations. As expected, they have limited pre-trade transparency, but they have to publish two-way codes continuously during the continuous trading session of the relevant exchange. But this obligation is only for liquid stocks and also for orders only up to the standard market size, which is usually 10,000 euros for most of the European stocks. When it comes to the post-trade transparency, their obligation is similar to exchanges. They are obliged to publish trades information as close to real time as technically possible for them. And for the quoting and determining the execution price, they have the obligation to comply with the MiFID II harmonized tick size regime, which is set across venues, is the same across venues. And this tick size obligation is for orders up to the minimum large in a scale thresholds. They also have a flexibility in the trading. According to the rules, they have basically, they are allowed to refuse to enter interactions and trading with certain counterparty based on their own evaluation of the risk, like counterparty risk. And this is where it helps them and provide them the possibility for the possible cream skimming and basically cream skimming liquidity or uninformed order flow away from exchanges, which can result to the market segmentation, although it's not in the form of payment for order flow. For in this paper, we focus on the Swedish stock market, in particular 45 large cap stocks, and the sample period is the year of 2018. The reason to choose Swedish stock is that we have a detailed data that we obtain from the Swedish Financial Supervisory Authority, basically the transaction reporting system. And the use of this data is important for us because it identifies trades by distinct trading firms. We can see the trader identifier and who is basically the identity of the traders involved in the transactions. And also it helps to see each SI or dealer platform responsible for each transaction, which helps us to distinguish between HFT and non-HFT dealers, which is important here. And we also use the Refinitiv tick history database to match the trade across the two data sets and also measure the market quality metrics. And when it comes to the sample of transaction, we exclude dealer transactions that do not contribute to the price discovery and also transactions with non-addressable liquidity. I should mention that these type of transactions are limited to non-HFT dealers, but since to be able to capture a more reliable and correct market share for HFT dealers and also some other analysis and descriptive statistics in the paper, we exclude these transactions from the data. And also we exclude all the transactions outside of the exchange trading hours. And the trading venues for the market quality and other analysis, we use the Nasdaq Stockholm and the main 4 MTFs. And we identify HFTs by following the paper by Baron and others, where HFT firms are identified as those that are members of the FIA EPTA, or firms that describes themselves as a HFTs on their website, as when they engage in the low latency trading. Let's just have a look first on some statistics on the trading activity of dealers. Here you can see the stock day average and share trading activity of HFTs, both on dealers platforms and also as a combination of dealers and exchanges. We can see that 51% of all trades executed by dealers are executed by HFT dealer platforms, which corresponds to the 23% of the total volume. And looking at this, the comparison of these numbers, we can see that here that similar to their trends on exchanges for HFT, they still conduct trades with lower trade sizes than non-HFTs here. And also for the 45% of total trades on dealers on exchanges are captured by HFT dealers, which also correspond to 42% of total trading volume. I think if there is any question, maybe I can.
I don't have any in the chat. I don't know if people have like questions in their heads that they would like to ask. Okay. This is a good opportunity to do so.
So I continue with.
Sure, go ahead if I haven't heard from anybody.
To start the analysis of the market quality, we use two-stage least square regression to be able to control for the potential endogeneity that can arise in this kind of analysis. And here you can see the second stage of the regression. We have as a dependent variable the liquidity measures that we use is coded spread, depth, and effective spread. And as an explanatory variable, we have the market share of HFT dealer platform, which is the fitted value that we obtained from the first stage. We also have a set of control variables here. For the choice of instruments, in the first stage, we follow the previous studies and pick as the first instrument variable, for example, for stock I and AT, the average market share of HFT dealers in all the stocks except the stock I. And also as a second one, we use the previous day's market share of HFT dealers as a second choice of instruments. By running the regression analysis, what we find here is that the market share of HFT dealers is significantly related to the quoted spread and depth at the 1% level, and also with effective spread at the 10% level, which is the effect in the displayed liquidity, like quoted spread and depth, is larger. To see the magnitude of the changes, we can see that here, basically, one standard deviation increase in the market share of HFT dealer platforms reduces the average depth on the exchange at the best codes by 14%, and it increases the quoted spread by 3% and also the effective spread by 1%. And we can see that the magnitude of change is higher for the displayed liquidity. But still here, the effective spread that we use is basically calculated for all different types of traders. to check if there is one type of traders that drive the changes in the effective spread, we rerun the regression and basically use the effective spread for different types of traders, basically for slow traders and HFTs that do not operate as a dealer, and also HFT dealers. And as a dependent variable, the variable of interest, we use the active effective spread when they trading cost when they trade actively, take liquidity. And we find here is that an increase in the market share of HFT dealers has no significant impact, not even statistically, on the trading cost of non-dealer HFTs, which shows that despite the reduction in the displayed liquidity in the market, non-dealer HFTs still are able to trade in the same way without any changes in their transaction cost. While we observe there is a slight change and increase for trading cost of non-slow traders and also the HFT dealers. As I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, to see what is the possible reason for this reduction in the market quality, we examine how the liquidity supply of HFTs changes on the public venues. We conduct a firm stock day regression, and as a liquidity supply measures, we use the passive volume, basically, which is the total traded stock volume by each firm through passive trading on the exchange, and also liquidity supply ratio, which is firm's fraction of stock volume through passive trading on the exchange. And here we use the non-dealer HFTs as a benchmark in the regression, and consider two dummy variables here. One is that dealer IJT, which is one if the HFT firm of J has non-zero trading activity on the dealer platforms, and the other one, since we use non-dealer HFT as a benchmark, we choose this dummy variable, which is one if the trading firm or if the HFT firm is operate as a dealer and zero otherwise. And we also conduct a stock day regression, a fixed effect for the regression. And here is what we find as a result for this analysis. We find that on stock days that there is a trading activity on dealer platforms. One standard deviation increase in the trading volume, HFT dealer volume, reduces the total passive volume of the corresponding HFT on the exchange by 37%, and also reduces the liquidity supply ratio by 18%. And here, as we said, it can be related to the inventory management that we do, because when engaging in the dealer activity, a dealer builds up additional inventory positions. To reduce the inventory imbalance, basically, and the return to the desired inventory level, the HFT dealer can trade aggressively, basically, or quote aggressively on the same direction as to reduce the inventory position on the exchange. And this can result to the in a relative term increase in the active trading and reduction in the passive trading. And also, as I mentioned, is more control over adverse selection costs is something that helps motivates them to be active or more on their own dealer operations. When it comes to the inventory here, we perform the same set of firm stock regulation that we had before in the liquidity supply. And we use two different inventory measures. Basically, when inventory, the number of times that the inventory position, the firm changes its inventory position, and also end of the inventory. And here we find that basically an increase in the trading activity or the trading volume on HFT dealer platforms induces that the dealers reduce the need to offload the positions more often. Basically, they need to change their position less often. And considering this variable as an indication of market making behavior, it shows that it's still further that they engage in less in market making activities. And also it can be concluded that they have a better control over the inventory cost because they are able to help hold their inventories for longer durations. And also we find a larger dealer volume helps them to have a lower end of day inventories, which can be because of the possibility for them to engage in inter-dealer trading with other dealers, and also the offloading the position on exchange. They have more possibilities when acting on the dealers to manage their inventories, so they are able to keep the inventory end of the inventory lower. I want to, if there is any question here, or just
let's see. I know there's I think I know that Andre has a question. Andre, I think you can probably go ahead if you like to.
Hi, Fatemeh. Very
Hello.
interesting presentation. A quick question. So what sort of order flow goes through these platforms? If you know, from trade sizes, it seemed like it could be something retail related. But what I was curious about is if you know the composition, and also how stable it is. In other words, do they get order flow kind of coming through continuously during the day, or is it intermittent, unpredictable once in a while, and then once it comes, they have to start unwinding?
In terms of it's not completely retail order flow, because I mean, when it comes to the HFT dealers, the orders are much, I mean, the trade size that they execute is much lower. But when it comes to other type of dealers, they are more active in executing very large orders. But for the HFTs are much smaller trade sizes. And the order flow, it's not that goes once in a while, it's usually continuously, but it's increased a lot during close to the closing of the market, basically. It's usually, it's going flat, not flat, I mean, it's usually monotone, but increases sharply during the last, especially half hour of the trading days. And again, this is the case for the for both HFTs and non-HFTs, but non-HFT dealers are a bit different, because if we for example consider the U shape of the trading on the exchange, HFT dealers follow the similar patterns, but it's different for non-HFT dealers.
Thank you.
Okay, we had a question in the chat from Mehmet that was about the ratio of institutional versus retail volume. I think we answered that. I'm not sure, we can kick that in there too if we want to reiterate it. But we also have a question by Shihao. Shihao, do you want to read your question out?
Yeah, sure. But my question is actually very similar to what Andrea.
I didn't even get a chance to read yours. I was like, I'm so focused on Mehmet. Okay, John Roberts has a question that just came in the chat. I can read it for you if you want, or you can ask it yourself, John. Let me see here. Okay, I'm going to read John's question here, which is, if you see the names of all your traders, do you find high frequency traders who have a single dealer platform also trade as counterparties in a different HFT single dealer platform?
If I see the HFT single dealer platform and their counterparties, to me?
Yeah, so do they trade to other other HFT single dealer platforms?
They don't. I mean, it's less. They are less engaged HFTs to trade with other single dealer platforms. This is that can happen happens more for non-HFT dealer platforms.
Okay.
In terms of engaging the inter-dealer interactions.
Okay, cool. Hopefully that answers your question, John. I think we can have Pankaj.
Yeah, my question is, are these HFT single dealer platforms, are they subject to the Reg NMS type best execution obligations? So don't they have to look up all around and then provide the best codes or not? I think it's different, right? And compared to how it works in the US.
Yeah, I think it's different. It's not the same as they have to, no, it's not exactly the same as in the US. As long as they comply with the MiFID II in terms of price improvements, that's all they need to do basically. But in terms of, they have, MiFID II has its own also policy of the best execution. But I don't know if I answered the question. It's not
so they
exactly
don't have to look
the
at
same.
each trade, I guess. Yeah, best execution is defined much differently. Anyway, thank you. Yeah.
It's different from Europe to US, the concept of best execution.
Okay, I don't have other questions. Is there anybody who like has one in their head that they didn't put in the chat? You can raise your hand or whatever. If not, then we can proceed.
Okay. Okay, yeah, this was regarding the inventory. In the paper, we also look at what is the different characteristics and what is the differences basically between those HFTs that operate as a dealer and those that are not do not operate as a dealer. What you can see here is that HFT dealers are obviously very large HFT firms. They trade, they conduct significantly higher number of trades and trading volumes, but their trade size are significantly lower than those HFTs that do not operate as a dealers. And also they have higher, significantly higher inventory crosses zero and lower end of day inventories. And also what we see here is that they are much better than non-dealer HFTs in timing liquidity and having better execution costs when they trade actively. They take liquidity, the execution cost is lower. And also they impose higher price impact to a slow liquidity providers when they trade actively. So basically what we can say is they act more like market makers than non-dealer HFTs. In terms of relevancy to regulator, as I mentioned, when it comes to Europe specifically, the intention of the regulation was to reduce the fragmentation and move back most of the trading to the public venues. And as they notice, this has not happened, and also and this dealer platform captured a large number of trades and also trading volume. And the regulatory actions that needs to be done, they have already started that to increase basically the pre-trade transparency of SIs. They increase basically they need to provide for larger than SM. They propose that they need to be more transparent in terms of quoting. Since we see that the activity, at least of HFT dealer platforms, has resulted in a reduction in transparent liquidity on exchanges. And also, when it comes to the, as I mentioned, there need to be some regulatory actions. They might be needed to avoid the possible cream skimming that can happen by, in general, dealer platform and also HFTs, because with this flexibility that they have, that can refuse to enter interaction, they can easily segment the market and capture more uninformed order flow. And this is something that happens through the payment for order flow, for example, in the US, but here it can also happen because of this flexibility that they have in the market, in the regulatory framework. I'm almost done here. And as a conclusion, we found that HFT dealer platforms, their activities deteriorate liquidity on exchanges. And this is because of one of the reason is the reduction in the liquidity supply by HFT dealers, which are important market makers on exchanges. And also we find that they result in a better inventory management for HFTs. They benefit by operating as a dealer platforms.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry. Are we going back? What's happening?
No.
Okay, gotcha.
Can I stop sharing or?
People may refer
Sure.
to a couple slides.
Okay.
There seems to be some discussion going on between Michael and Lars about how the effective spread results on slide 26 relate to the earlier slides that show there were no significant effects related to effective spreads. What interpretation should we take from this? And Lars is like, okay, well, one interpretation is that the differences in effective spreads are for different trader types, but these are not visible in the aggregate regression. And Michael notes that both passive and active effective spreads were lower on slide 26. I don't know. Is there? Yeah, slides 26 is the one that Michael's pointing to.
Okay, the characteristics. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Michael, do you want to comment on this a little more, or are you kind of like in a good space here, or no?
It just when the talk started, one of the things that struck me was, are all these quoted things look different, but effective spreads there's no difference. So it's kind of making me think, oh well, if the experience ends up being equivalent, why does this matter? And then slide 26 says, look, there are these differences. And so just some version of, the first half kind of implied no differences, the second half implied differences. Just what should my takeaway be? That's all.
I think, I mean, in this slide, basically on the characteristics, we just look at the general trading costs that face both non-dealers and dealers. And I mean, if they have for example, here in the active trading, then non-dealer HFTs face higher execution costs, no matter how much trading happens on HFT dealer platform, they still continue to have these trading costs. It's basically like this, instead in the general executional costs that they face. So I don't know if I answered what you meant. Or...
I see Michael unmuted and making a face. Is that good or no?
Well, my recollection was earlier in the discussion about an increase in the volume of being on a platform or not, and that had no effect on effective spreads. I'm trying to reconcile those two, but it's not my paper and I don't want to monopolize the discussion.
No,
okay. I see a hand from Andre. Do you want to go?
Yes, thank you. Fatemeh, I'm curious how you think about the counterfactual here. So presumably this volume that is executed on these single dealer platforms, in the absence of the platforms, would have gone to the exchange. So the same HFTs would be executing it there and accumulating these inventories there, and probably doing the same things with the spreads there to manage their inventory. In other words, is there a way with your data, and I was trying to think about it, but I don't exactly know what the data look like. Is there a way to understand how the same firms behave on exchange when they accumulate similar inventory imbalances?
similar inventories on the exchange, you mean? Or I think we can look at the, I mean, if we look at an intraday, by doing an intraday analysis, and so when they accumulate, for example, the inventories on exchange, how they, it can be handled if it goes, I mean, it can be two ways of handling inventories probably. One is the dealers be handled through by a floating exchange, and also it has the possibility probably to when they accumulate dealers on the exchange and they use their dealer platforms. We have not done in the analysis, but it should be, I think, doable to do how the firm changes of inventory management across the by doing across the two platforms by doing an intraday analysis.
Okay, thank you. Just to sort of add to my initial thought, to me, this is interesting, not just because you're showing the effect of single dealer platforms, but also because you can have, you seem to be able to see how inventory management occurs in real time, and that seems to be an interesting angle to think about as well, whether it's off exchange or on exchange.
Yeah, I think because we see that exactly the trader identifier at every single transaction that they happen, they take place across venues. So I think.
Okay, thank you. I think the next hand is from Bjorn. Bjorn, you can go ahead.
Thank you. Very interesting paper, Fatemeh. I've been following this project for several years, and I think it's great data and lots to learn here. There's been a discussion in the chat about whether it is retail or institutional flows that come to the SIs, the HFT SIs, and Lars wrote that you don't know, but an indication can be that from your other paper you see that it's not very informative. But then we also heard that so that would indicate that it could be retail, and that would be very surprising to me, because my experience of what European retail traders do, they send everything to the main exchange, and the retail platforms can't sell their flow to a platform like this, so there's no mechanism for the I would be surprised if retail traders are connected to the SIs. So I was thinking institutional, but then it's uninformed, and but then you said it's also spiking just before the close. Doesn't that sound like it's index funds, like passive fund flows that come to the SIs?
I think that could be one of the things, because it's I mean, one of the things that there are in the other papers that there are informed traders also trade a lot towards the close, and this is why I think, since they are not very informative, at least we don't find the evidence to be very informative. It could be that the spike can be either that, or also basically they wanted to close the positions as well. But in terms of the flow, I think probably can be passive. No, I don't know exactly. It's not really possible to know exactly the flow here.
Okay. Let's see here. We have Cindy Pan wants to know if the data set allows for any indication of competition between high frequency trader dealer platforms. Oh, and Lars answered that question. The answer is yes, we do. And then Mehmet has like a comment. So I'm not sure if other people have comments for questions. This is a good time to raise your hand if you still have them. Okay, Thomas Ernst, go ahead, man.
Hey, so I was wondering what do you see in terms of like the closing auction versus intraday for how SIs behave?
Well, I mean, I haven't exactly looked at I mean, for example, the percentage that happened very, okay, no, wait, can you repeat your question? I think I didn't get
Yeah,
it
so
exactly.
and let me also maybe explain my naiveness here, which is, I know in the US, there's been a trend now where some dealers will offer like a guaranteed close, but it'll execute off exchange. I'm wondering whether that happens at all here. Are the SIs, offering some sort of off exchange closing cross? How big is it? And does their behavior there in some way seem different or similar to what they're doing intraday?
Well, unfortunately, I don't know exactly if they exactly offer such a, but I think it is possible to, based on their structure and how they operate, I think it's possible that they do such an offer. But I don't know exactly. I should look into it. I don't know at the moment.
Okay. Anyone else? Or do you want to keep going? I don't know. Tom's camera just came on.
No, sorry,
No.
I just I sat down, but yeah, no, that answered my
Okay,
question.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, I don't see other questions, but like I'm happy to wait for like 15 seconds if people have them like rattling around in their brain.
Hi, Cameron. This is John Roberts. I just had a quick question.
Go for it.
Futures in the U.S. futures, we see HFTs, and often they might have a few independent trading desks that compete with each other, or they're independent. Do you find the same thing in your data, where maybe the single dealer platform is run by an HFT, but there could be many desks that are actively trading independently, or do you think you consider them kind of one dealer?
I think they are when the desk that operate basically as a single dealer is only one trading desk, I guess. Oh no, maybe I'm not sure exactly. Because I have talked to one of them. It's basically, it's different because I mean every HFT dealer operates this is not really the same. They have really diversity in the way they operate, each of them even within HFT dealer platforms. So only have talked to one of them. So, I don't know exactly about all of them, if they have several trading desks.
Thank you.
Cool. Anyone else? I don't see any other hands. I'll go back to dancing if people don't have questions. This is just like a time to watch me dance. We do not analyze revenues or profits in this paper. Okay. If there's no further questions, then I think we can probably wrap up a little bit early. So thank you everybody for coming to watch Fatemeh's talk. Fatemeh, you did an excellent job. Thank you very much.
Thank you everyone for joining and hearing you. Thank you for questions and comments.
And I believe this is the final like edition of the season. So thanks everybody for coming to like yet another season. It's a miracle this thing is still going on. And the call for papers is up on the website until December 15th. So if you have papers you want to be considered for the spring session, please submit those there, and it'll go through all the proper channels. So thanks everybody. Happy holidays. And I guess have a wonderful day.
Thank
Unless
you.
it's over.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you very much.